Now, the rest of the story.
Welcome back. It's the morning after spraying fertilizer, and I did that about perfect. Everything's greening up. If you guys saw the video, even this yard up here was pretty well brown, and it's amazing what, I'm not sure how much rain we got. It looks like it went to the north and south of us. The red clouds went to the north and south of us. I know we got a fair amount of rain. My driveway didn't really wash, but for how dry we were for the last 8 days, I'm hoping that the ground was able to soak it up and it didn't rain all at once. You see we got a little bit of a puddle right there. A big indicator that I can tell down here, normally there's a rain gauge down here. I don't know if the landowners didn't put it up, or I haven't really looked for one, but there's actually some stakes right through here on the edge of the grass and the gravel. It's actually a natural low spot, and if we have a significant amount of water down here, that's the first place it'll really settle and pond. I got a bunch of hay down here. It's, by the time you watch this, imagine a lot of it's already been moved or being moved, and I got it all placed in regards to where it came from. You know, technically three different fields, which they all have different material on them, from red canary to this stuff. But one of the things that they do kind of shy away from, they don't like seeing the brown material, the brown grasses in here, at least locally. But I can say there's plenty of greenness through it. And the big thing that you got to look for, this is obviously the side where the rain was hitting, but you can peel back the outer layer, that, you know, the protective layer, and it's green all the way through the bale. Hay prices are good depending on who you are and where you're at, but to me and for what I need to operate, hay prices are good. And it's all about watching your cost production. I'm not going to sit and run on and on about costs and inputs, but because doing that last night and yesterday, that hurt the checkbook. But it's a management thing where I feel like it was in my best interest to. This is going to dry off. I mean, on the outer layer, of course, they're calling for 70s and 80s. I can stick my finger in here as far as I can. It's not hot or anything, but you get that nice deep green look to it. This dries out, it's still going to have a lot of its color. You can see, once again, the rain didn't hit like from here to right here, and then it must have been coming in at an angle. But this stuff, I gave a couple of cores of hay to my cows up at the home farm, and they chewed right through it, to where I had to go back and start feeding them the leftover hay, the last of the little bit of leftover hay I have, because I wasn't expecting them to go after the core stuff. And when I say leftover hay, I'm not meaning actual junk. I mean the stuff that I fed, like the crummy stuff, which there wasn't much of it last year, right away. The first 17 bales we made this year, they weren't the best. I attribute that almost entirely to the clover in it. People hate when I trash talk clover on here, but even my grandpa himself said that clover was good feed. The cows liked it, you know, dairy cows, that they liked it. He said the problem is you get one good cutting off of it, and then it just doesn't perform for the rest of the year. And like, he chopped it, but like for us, curb appeal goes a long way when you're moving this stuff. And my first year doing this, before I got smart and just went through and had the clover sprayed out, so it was just grass, but you would get like layers, you'd just be swirled in here of the clover and then the grass. And then the problem is the clover turns black and stays wet. And then I essentially just gave those bales away As a matter of fact, I tried selling some of those bales. It wasn't worth trying to move them. And I'm just trying to figure out how to walk down here. I ended up feeding out a large portion of them. But first cut, the valley is officially done. We have, our stereotypical waterway stuff and the oatlage or oats or the new seeding, however you want to look at that. We're going to be making that here. Is about 15 acres of that. My thing is that new seeding is my dad's and I's, and I'm trying to figure out where the best place is down at my place to wrap those, because I don't see much point in taking that to my brother's place if the cattle it's going to be fed to are at the home farm and down where I live. So it seems kind of silly round baling as much as I did, but you know what? I can't tell you how thankful I am. The wind's actually kind of chilly. How thankful I am that I'm not big squaring any of this stuff, because we had the weather to actually big square, because they say to make big squares you have to have about a day longer than it takes to make any of the rounds. But then the problem is you're getting what, a bale and a half, about a bale and a half for every round bale I make. So you're talking like over 600 bales of big squares down here. I don't have the room for it. I don't. I mean, the sheds you see is what I got, and the sheds are, I can't pack them any fuller. I've done in the past, I've put another row right on the front here, but because I knew the rain was coming, I didn't want to, well, I made the bales bigger too, and it made it harder to get them up in there without like destroying the shed, and I wasn't about to try that. So they're as full as I can get them. And for why we came down here, I want to go see or look out through the field here. The big push of getting the fertilizer on last night, it was Liquid 32 and Black Max. Oh yeah, we got some water. The liquid that I put down with the rain we got should have washed it down into the roots really well. I mean, that's the timing that they always say that they want. And this actually, you can see the regrowth coming in through here. I'm not walking clear down to the valley because I don't want to risk, getting stuck. But you had a bunch of growth coming in already. It is June something. Is it the 25th? But the current timelines I'm sitting on is, gosh, I sound like a dad when I do that, don't I? End of July. I'm going for 3 cuttings on this. The weather forecast, we got, I want to know how much rain we end up getting. I heard upwards of 2 inches for some people, but if we had 2 inches of rain, either the ground really was extremely dry, or I still got plenty of cracks out in the field, which that's not going to be cured overnight. It came down gently enough that it could have soaked into the ground. But this field, for yielding as well as it did, over 100 bales to the acre, of bigger bales than last year. Because last year at 60-inch bales versus the 65-inch bales this year, I got, 62 or something like that bales. So it looks nice. I don't know if I can get it out here this far to see the valley. I'm making a liar of myself and I start walking. But no, somebody asked me about the fence row down through there. I'm planning on tearing it out. If I gotta do it by myself, I mean, the fence that we already took the wire off of, I can actually tear that out with the skid steer and the grapple bucket. Just handy enough with it. I can actually go through and just pick them up and drop them out. The second fence, once again, the grapple bucket. It's wire panel, and it's just going to be a big snot ball of material. I'll just go through and pick it all out, roll it up, and get it gone. And then I don't know if there's a couple spots where I could pull the fence out where it'd just be easier to operate down here, where I'm really not gaining much, but ease of convenience, you know. And I got 3 trees that I want to cut, but then after that, I'm not really planning on doing much anything down here for a while, or for the foreseeable future, just because we've done a lot in the last couple of years, and I'm hoping that for how it's performing right now and this year, it's a good indicator about what we have to look forward to it, or what we can expect from it going forward. And this stuff has been cut. This is what, day 8 or 9 since it's been cut. I cut it the 16th of June, and I don't know, I can zoom in without messing this up. And that's about as good as I can get. I can do better, but that's what the valley looks like right now. It's getting a green tint to it, which is a very good thing. I was spraying it last night. You could see that the regrowth was coming in. But I gotta say, I'm feeling pretty good about this down here. Now what I could do, which people don't like the crop update videos, but I'm actually heading up to check one of my farther away farms and see what the corn looks like on that, because that is getting urea spun on. Today is Saturday. I'm pretty much just I'm gonna cultivate it Wednesday, Thursday, and either the urea is on before I cultivate it or it isn't. I'm not putting a full rate of side dress on it, which I normally run it on on my dial indicator. I usually set it for 4. I'm dropping it down to 2, and I'm just dribbling on a low rate because I'm planning on having the urea on it. It is on the books, so I should give you an update on the crops too, and then do another video about working in the shed, because that's really where I was heading today. Everything needs attention. The 76, the Bobcat is about done. I just need to do the engineer filter on that. The 4682, once again, air the cabs out, engine filters, grease everything. Both the balers need to be hit with the air hose, because you know it's a sin. It's a self-imposed sin, because I'm the one that says to do it. But go through and blow all the dirt and dust off of them. I like to do that before we put them away at the end of the day, but time constraints didn't justify that. Plus the 566 was put in the shed broken. Roller chains, the quality of roller chains is just completely fallen off a cliff. I'm extremely disappointed. The same place we've bought in roller chains my whole life, literally. And I broke the small one. Got extremely lucky, because that small one I didn't catch right away. I mean, it probably made 3 or 4 rotations, you know, because you can hear it, you know, thwack, thwack, thwack. It made about 3 rotations before I hit the power takeoff, the off switch. And where that chain was coming around and, you know, destroying everything it's hitting, it was actually hitting a hydraulic hose and fitting. And it actually backed it out to where the hydraulic fitting was leaking, but I was able to spare it spared any real damage to that, and I was able to go through, tighten the fitting back up, cobble together, because I didn't have any new chain, which is probably for the best. Cobbled together a replacement chain with 3 out of 3 smaller pieces, you know, and then I was able to get back to work. And then I almost bailed everything else. I got down to the last 8 bales because Ryan had quit, because I told him we get close to being done, just shut down, because that way we don't have 2 partial bales, and then just let me finish up, because I was on the steep stuff on the neighbor's place, and Ryan doesn't like doing the steep stuff because he's worried about, you know, the baler tipping, which I don't think is a big concern unless you get really dumb with it. But I think you have a higher chance of flipping it right there. But no, that's irrelevant. He was actually driving back to the buildings over here just to park it, and the big chain gave. I mean, the big long, like 6, 7, 8 foot one, that one gave, and that just raised hell. So jumped back in the 569 and finished at that one. You guys aren't going to hear enough of it this summer, as long as I'm doing hay videos and probably doing corn fodder this fall. But that 569 was so incredibly worth it. I don't think I could say it in enough words. I really don't. I really don't. Didn't realize that we went from a 535 to a 566, and I thought we had the world by the butt. Didn't realize we could have things, you know, such a baler works so well. The big improvement there was the net wrap. The 535, ours didn't want to wrap basically at all. If you went 10 bales without the net wrap acting up, you were doing good. Went to the 566, and it's a nice baler. The only thing is, we went from net wrap issues to feeding issues. The 566, if you get any kind of material that wants to wrap, that has any type of any moisture in it, or down here last year where it was too dry, where the Reed Canary, you know, this stuff, you know, stuff sitting in front of your face, it got so dry where it was essentially like straw, because grass has that little waxy coating on it. And the belts, new belts, I mean, they're not old and worn out or anything, couldn't catch this and yank it up into the chamber. The 569, it's got the net wrap figured out, it's got the pickup figured out, it's got the intake figured out. I mean, it's got the big flotation tires on it, the big floaters, which won't be fun to replace ever. But like down here in the valley, when you got the duals on the 82 and the big floaters on the back of the baler, on the areas where it was a little soft, it walked right across it, because by the time that we came down here to make it, it was already drying out enough on top where it would carry you. And then like with the 46 last night, it was more for stability, because was it 8 days? Yesterday was 8 days since it was cut, that the duals, I was driving through the areas where I was cutting in with the disc bind, with the wheels of the disc bind, and the tires didn't even make tread. So I'm happy. We're getting this figured out down here to where it's not quite such a headache. But with the 569 running alongside the 566, it makes me want to get rid of the 566 and upgrade to another big baler. Probably doesn't seem like we need that much, which I understand. People are probably thinking that. Some people probably think that. But we just made pretty much record production for us down here. And the 8 days or the 7 days from the day that I cut this to the day that we were done baling everything we wanted to bale for that stretch, we did 653 bales all together between Dad, Ryan, and myself. And we would have never done that with just the 566. There's no way. Not even if you even take out the reliability of it, of, you know, worrying about breaking something. Even though I went through everything, those were new chains. Give me a break. The ability of having 2 machines in the field and being able to just drop in and run is, I don't know if you can put a price on it. Well, the equipment dealer I bought the 569 did a pretty good job of putting a price on it, but it's worth it. The only thing as far as the hay operation goes, I mean, outside of the obvious, you need another tractor. You take that out of the equation, a bigger tedder is something that is on my list, and another hay wagon, something a little bit bigger. I mean, I think the 36-foot JBM manufacturing, or John BM, or whatever it is, I know it's what I want. They got them up in Dodgeville, but being able to come in and pick these bales up in a hurry too, especially if we can keep ahead of them. Dad, in the heavy first cut with the rhino rake, he was jogging. I don't think he actually had to run, largely just because, I mean, you can see it in the video I posted where I was filming out the front of the tractor when Ryan and I were baling down there side by side. you only went 150 feet and you're dropping another bale out. So that rake, I don't even think it was opened up all the way, could keep ahead of us. So you get to second and third cut, it might be a different story, but I don't even want to think about second, third cut right now because I got to worry about cultivating and getting everything worked too. This is a long enough video for just whatever talking, but talking about crops, I'm gonna probably drive up and see what that cornfield looks like, and maybe I'll give you guys an update on that. This is the last corn that I planted. It's right back to that original argument. What do you classify as knee high? Knee high by 4th of July. Well, standing right next to the plant, and what the old school technique was, you grab it by the leaf and you actually hold the leaf up your leg, and that's about mid-thigh on me. Or you can just say overall plant height, it's about knee high. This is the field that I have to cultivate. This is getting spread with urea. The rain we got really accelerated it along. It was looking kind of sour. Not, well, I say sour, not necessarily in a bad way. It was thirsty. It needed a drink. And now, my opinion is, if they're gonna have, you know, the plant being stressed from being too dry, I want it to be too dry at this phase in June. The reason I say that is then the plants have to really root down to find moisture, find the nutrients, so you get a better root growth underneath each of these plants. And then that way all of the nutrients that are in the soil from last year and now this year, it's able to utilize as much that's there as possible. So when I go through and cultivate, the plan is really just, I'm going to be side dressing a half rate of what I normally do, just because I'm already here. And if I'm already here, I'm going to dribble a little bit of liquid on just to kind of kick it in the butt. And as long as they're able to come through and get the urea spread, it'll actually also help incorporate that urea. So if we don't get any rain immediately after, can you tell this was planted after the steering controller quit on me? Yeah, a little wide there, but just a little bit more added sunlight, right? Getting the urea incorporated into the soil in case it doesn't rain right away or too soon after the next rain forecast, or after when I'm tripping over my own words here. If it doesn't rain very soon after we put the urea down to help incorporate it to the soil, at least if I go through and cultivate it, I'm stirring some of that soil up and I'm incorporating that urea. That's what I'm trying to say. The stuff is nice. It's deep green. It looks just beautiful. It really does. We're better off this year than we were last year. Myself, I haven't been really all that shy about it. We've had issues with the planter. And what I mean by that is with the trash whippers, the row cleaners, the reveal row cleaners, and the row unit themselves, there's two different airbags. So there's two different actions, modes, whatever, that are pushing down into the soil to get those units to work properly. Well, the thing is I didn't take into consideration is the fact of how much down pressure can be exerted from the frame of that machine before you start lifting the machine up. And I'd say we're right about there. If I had the seed boxes completely full or filled, I was all right. But when I got into the farm, part of the farm where I was running low on seed, that's when you start hearing me saying that I was scabbing it into the ground, because the row unit was essentially running on the seed discs, just basically just hardly cutting into the soil. But as far as stands, this place is still over 30,000. It's like 32 or something like that. I planted a couple thousand more than that. I didn't bring a measuring tape, otherwise I could have done a stand count. Doing a bunch of random stand counts across it would help also, but I'm not trying to, I know I don't sound super excited in my voice, but I'm trying to stem or manage my expectations, because now with that 8 days of sunshine and heat, 80s and 90s, yeah, the corn, some people's was a lot worse than others. Ours really wasn't curled up that much, which is a mode of defense for the plant to try to protect moisture from the heat throughout the day. But by doing that, it goes back to my original statement, is it's getting the plants to root down and establish a better root mass. And now with the current forecast of whatever we got for rain last night, which I'd say they were calling for a ½ an inch. I say we got all of that, if not maybe closer to an inch. The ground was dry enough. Depending on how fast it came down, the ground should have been able to soak in a lot of it. And you can see this is no-till ground. And it's firm enough yet, even with the rain, but I almost got stuck myself walking out here. There's no way I was going to be able to get the truck out here. But that looks kind of nasty, doesn't it? So I got to try to get the cultivator across it if I can't. As far as timeliness with, them being able to come out and do it, what I'll end up doing is making the management decision of, realistically, do I have time to come out and cultivate it? Yes or no? Have a heart-to-heart with myself, and maybe go and do some of the other 20 or 30 things that I'm trying to get done before the end of the summer. I don't really like saying that I'm throwing in the towel on cultivating, because I'm not. It's just with the hay pushing us back like it did when I was doing the hay is when I really should have been trying to get across cultivating. And this stuff is why I come up here to look at it. This probably grew 4 to 6 inches just last night. I had to take a phone call, but in closing here, the reason I come up and look at this, with all the heat we've been having, talked to my agronomist. That wasn't him that called, but we've had basically perfect weather since planting, and this stuff was kind of lagging a little bit. It needed the moisture with the 80s and 90s last week, and then it was getting down in 50s at night. So I mean, granted, it was getting hot out during the day, it was stressing the crops, but at least at night it was allowing it to cool off. And it wasn't just like back in 2012 where it was hot at day, hot at night, hot at day, hot at night. Back in 2012 when I was milking, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and you walk out of the house and it's like walking into a blast furnace. Yeah, that's obviously a recipe for disaster. But I mean, looking at these, got the obvious blemishes where you can definitely tell we got some issues here and there, but overall on this stuff, I mean, the plants, they look beautiful. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. I'm not trying to throw good money at bad money, but I will pay inputs knowing that there's potential there, and there is potential here. I mean, my problem is too, if this stuff has grown this much since last night, now that it's finally got the moisture it needed, it's taken off, it's gotten its color, it's darkened up. But if I feel that it's not worth trying to come up and slam through it with a cultivator, I mean, because how I planted it, I'll tell you right now, this is the first year running this place. How I planted it, I'm not exactly impressed with how I did it. I would have done it differently. I will be doing it differently in the future. But I'm just a little concerned that I'm going to take out more corn at this rate than what it's going to be worth, especially when you factor in they're going to be running through this spreading urea and then second pass spray. So yeah, I got 3 more, including the cultivator. I got 3 more passes going through this stuff, and you can look across it and the stand is beautiful. I mean, you got the gaps there where you can see I didn't have my guidance, but old school in it with the marker arms, which isn't the end of the world. But if it comes down to where I decide that skip the cultivator pass, it buys the co-op that much more time to broadcast urea. where they could wait a little bit yet. I mean, it can't get so high that it's, you know, level with the spinners, but it's a high clearance machine. And actually let them wait a little bit for another chance of rain, because they are calling for a few days of rain here and about a week again. So I mean, you're talking about, you try getting them to show up Monday, Tuesday, so I can cultivate Wednesday, Thursday, because this is a 2-day job, easily a 2-day job. And with the kind of weather we've been getting, this stuff can jump. Well, it's like it takes off like a rocket, to be honest with you. In a few days, this stuff could dang near be shoulder height on me. And it's just, this is kind of why I did that trial pass with the cultivator, because this is no-till corn onto soybean stubble. It's the more information you know, the better. The more options you can give yourself going forward here. And the way this stuff looks, for how tall it is, I could actually burn through it pretty quick with the cultivator, and I wouldn't have to worry about it knocking the plants over too much. But if I decide not to, they can actually wait a little bit longer, because I'd rather let the corn get go as long as you can before tasseling, before you put your nitrogen down. It's just that when I cultivate, I'm incorporating that liquid and I'm kind of kicking it along early on. When you Y drop and you broadcast urea, there is no incorporation other than crossing your fingers and hope you get a rain to incorporate it. Well, this is just a small sliver of this farm. I mean, it goes that way a long ways, it goes that way a long ways, it goes that way a real long ways, and I haven't had a chance to really come out and check my crops in the last week and a half. And I actually have my corn bottom, which is staying off social media, by the way. I was asked to keep it off social media, which I'm perfectly fine with. I'm really not in the category of everything that I do needs to be online. But I have to run a 4-wheeler down to check that. I can't get down to it with the truck. Not with, wow, it's a pretty good sized turkey down across here. So, well, this is the hay corn update. You guys will end up getting more. I'm going to post them regardless, even if I only get 1,000 views, because you can't rely on reports that are putting out by, you know, all the big gurus. I'm actually seeing what crops are doing across the country from the actual farmers, I think, is what really matters. And it's hard to really watch prices. There was a big flush in corn and beans here midweek, and then it's kind of strengthened going into Friday. But with this big weather cell that went across, I mean, it was a big yellow and red blob that went across this morning, and the market's probably going to react negatively to that. So manage your risks accordingly. So with that, take care, take it easy, keep in touch. The next video is probably going to be from today yet, but it's going to be from the machine shed, starting to work on everything that needs to be addressed. We only have 1 day of rain, so today, maybe tomorrow, for it to dry out, and Monday, Tuesday, I gotta move some stuff. Wednesday, Thursday, I have to have the heart-to-heart with myself by then to see if I'm gonna come up and cultivate, because for how this stuff looks, either I cultivate it Wednesday, Thursday, or it doesn't get cultivated. So that's with or without urea. And that's the third question to ask is, do you still want them to do urea even if they can't get down here to do it by then? But you still decide you want to go through and cultivate it? See, this is where knowing if that trial worked out or didn't would really come in handy. But overall, for all of my corn, all Dad's corn, all Ryan's corn, the farm in general, we farm together but individually, our corn ground is looking pretty awesome. Our beans, believe it or not, they do look good. They're slow to emerge. We have about 4 acres of issues, and it might look kind of, let's just go ahead and say yucky, but if the rest of the farm looks the way it does, and we had to sacrifice 4 acres of meh yields, it's a small price to pay. I don't know about you guys, but I actually think the crops look nicer before they tassel. I'm not saying I don't want them to tassel or nothing, but just when the stuff is right before tassel and you get a full field of that nice deep green crops, and you get the wind blowing across it and it's blowing gently, that's the kind of stuff that makes you glad you live out in the country. So with that, thanks for sticking around this long. Take care, take it easy, keep in touch. I'll talk to you guys later.